Okay, very big welcome everybody to Lecture 5 of Information Technology Project Management. Today I'm going to be talking about another topic that is usually very important from a calculation perspective. It is important from any exam, any midterm, any quiz, anything we're going to go and do. This is a calculation that is something you need to go and be bearing in mind and be reading in details and understanding in details to be able to go and really apply that learning to any questions I might go and actually give you down the track. So please make sure you spend the time to understand those calculations. We will probably have a bit more time today to be able to go through those calculations. And I don't think that's going to be as challenging as the calculation we've done yesterday or last week. But obviously it's about you guys ensuring you're going to go and practice. It doesn't matter how much I go and explain things to you. If you guys are not going to be practicing yourself, you're not going to be able to go and understand and be able to go and apply all of that. So it's about you continuing to go and make sure you spend the time to go and exploring and applying everything that I teach you to be able to go and ensure you get the right outcome when it comes to calculations. Now, today we are going to be talking about more than one chapter. So I'm going to explain the different reasons for crashing a project. Crashing a project means trying to go and finish the project a bit quicker than what you usually go and actually plan to go and complete. We can identify the different options for crashing an activity when resources are not constrained. So you have as many resources, how could you go and actually finish the project earlier? We can identify the different options for crashing an activity when resources are constrained. So if the resources are constrained, you don't have any more people to add to your project, it will mean that your project is going to be taking longer to go and be completed. Understand the risks associated with compressing or crashing a project, identifying different options for reducing the cost of the project. What can I do? How can I reduce my cost? For example, I can go and do some of my work myself instead of actually employing someone to go and do the job for me. We can understand the difference between leading and managing a project. What is the difference between the two? We can understand the need to manage project stakeholders. Stakeholders are all the people who have a stake in your project. Could be people inside your organization, could be people outside your organization, could be people inside your team. We can understand the need to go and manage all of these stakeholders. We can identify and apply different influence currencies to build positive relations with others. We're going to create a stakeholder map and develop strategies for managing project dependencies. We're going to go and understand the need for highly interactive management style on projects. So how do we actually go and continue interacting with people in details to be able to go and get the right outcomes. And then we're going to go and more effectively manage project expectation. There's so many expectations. How do we actually go and manage them? Understand the importance of building trust and acting in an ethical manner while working on a project. And finally, we can identify the qualities of an effective project manager. Who is a good quality manager? What sort of person? What do they deal with? How do they deal with various things? Now, ladies and gentlemen, time is actually money. So every minute, the actual project will take longer to go and actually complete. It's going to go and cost you more money. So you need to go and try to think about how do we actually go and manage all of our costs? How do we stop losing the money to be able to really go and reach the right outcome? Cost time solutions on reducing activities on the critical path to shorten overall duration of the project. So we need to really go and think, how could we go and think about reducing the cost of the project, but at the same time reducing the duration of the project. So you need to go and monitor a lot of the costings. You need to go and monitor what we call the direct and indirect costs to be able to go and try to finish the project earlier. And if you finish the project earlier, it means it's going to go and potentially cost you earlier. And I'll talk about that a bit later because we talk about more than one cost, direct and indirect cost. Now, we have a lot of, deadlines. A lot of time people come to tell you, we have a project and we want you to go and finish the project within a certain period of time. Now, why do we have to finish the project within a certain timeline? Why can't we finish it a bit later? Well, a lot of times you can't finish it later because you have time to market pressure. You are actually being pressured because of the competition, to go and finish the project within a very specific certain period of time. Sometimes you might be having unforeseen delays. You might have expected to go and finish an activity earlier, and in reality, you did not finish it on time. So that basically goes and pushes you to go and keep on pushing to be able to finish the project earlier. Impose deadline and contract commitments. Someone want to go and actually say, I want it by this date. Someone want to go and tell you, you have the contract. If you don't finish it by this date, I'm going to charge you $10,000 per day. Other reason is because there's an overhead and public goodwill cost, overhead cost. For example, you might be having to rent a space for as long as the project is going to run. So if the project finishes earlier, you're going to have to go and pay less money for all of that overhead. Pressure to move resources to other projects, and this is especially the case when you are talking about multi-project environments where you are dealing and working on more than one project at any point of time. And really what you need to do is when you're going to go and try to finish the project much more quicker, a lot of times it's going to mean I'm adding more people, and because I'm adding more people, it's going to cost me more. And because I'm rushing things to go and happen within a certain period of time, the quality a lot of time might be lower, and you might actually go and reach customers who are actually not very, not very happy with the work that you went and actually managed to go and produce to them. Now this slide is one that is important. Sometimes I ask questions in an exam by relying on this slide. I say, what are the options for me to finish the actual project quicker, or to finish the project? How can I accelerate the project? Well, there's two things you can do. If your resources are not constrained, if you can actually add more people to be able to go and work on your project, then an easy way for you to go and do this job is to add more resources. Another way for you to do it is, let me go, instead of doing the work myself, let me go and outsource it and employ someone else to go and do that job for me. Let me work overtime after the hours instead of working 8 hours a day. Let me get a core project team whose sole focus is about ensuring we are going to be finishing the project as quick as possible. So this group will be more committed to go and delivering that project. Let's do it twice, do it fast, and then correctly. So you do it fast first. It's not the best possible quality. It's not the top thing you want. It's have the main features. But then after that, after you basically no longer push by the deadlines to finish the job on time, then what you do is you work again on that task, and you'll be able to go and try to finish that task and make sure you complete it correctly. That's an approach to go and do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what happens when resources are constrained? When resources are constrained means you don't actually have more people. You can do fast tracking. You can rearrange the network logic. So for example, you might say, well, if I have a constraint, can I actually go and delay some activities that have more slack? And this way I'll be able to go and potentially work on activities that are the most important activities that I cannot actually go and delay. You can think about the critical chain approach, where you think about all of these activities that are on the main riskiest task, and you can try to focus on these to ensure that they're not going to be delayed. You can decide to go and reduce the project scope. So instead of doing a lot of work, you might say, well, what about if I do less work or less requirements, and then I still deliver to you things within a certain period of time? Or the last thing, which is a pretty bad outcome, is let me go and compromise on the quality. So let me go and try to give you work, but that work is actually not fully the work that you actually went and expecting for me to go and deliver. Excuse me. Now, we have various costs when it comes to the organization, and especially to managing projects. We have what we call a direct cost, and we have what we call an indirect cost. An indirect cost is a cost that is not really associated with any specific work package, with any specific work you do. It's not really associated with any activity. For example, it doesn't matter if the project run for 1 day or 10 days, you need someone to supervise. You need the project manager. It doesn't matter how long the project runs, you need to have an administration. A lot of times you need consultants to come and help you to go and do things relating to the project. A lot of time there's interest, you need to go and pay. for as long as the project goes and actually runs. So this is what we call indirect cost. They're not really linked to any specific work that a person is actually doing. It's really indirect. So what does indirect mean? Well, if I go and finish my project in 1 month early, that means I'm going to have to go and pay 1 month less for the project manager. If I'm going to go and finish 1 month early, that means I'm going to go and have to pay 1 month less for the actual administration. If I go and think about for example, the consultants. If my project is going to run for for less periods of time, what's going to happen there? Well, if it's going to run for less periods of time, we're going to be able to go and pay less money for the consultant throughout the duration of the project. If I'm going to go and pay up my debt for the project earlier, I'm going to pay less interest. All of these are indirect costs. So if the project will finish earlier, my cost is going to go, especially my indirect cost is going to actually be decreased. If it finished longer, I'll have to pay more supervision, more administration, more consultancy, and that's basically going to go and cost me more money. Project direct costs, costs that are actually assigned directly to a specific work package or an activity. There's a labor, there's a material for an activity, there's an equipment I need to use, there's a subcontractor who's doing one specific job for me. So if I go and actually crash an activity, it increases my direct cost because I'm trying to finish the task quicker. So the cost that I'm paying to go and work on that activity quicker is going to go and cost me more. But it will actually potentially reduce my indirect cost because the project is finishing quicker. All of these costs, such as supervision, administration, consultancy, if my project finishes earlier, it's going to go and actually enable me to go and finish that work in an earlier manner. So how do we actually go and reduce the project duration? Well, the way you do it is you gather information first. How do you actually reduce the duration to reduce our cost? What I needed to say. It's really about identifying the process. So first thing, you need to gather information about what is my direct cost and what is my indirect cost going to be for each specific duration that my project goes and runs. So we need to calculate it. What is my direct cost and what is my indirect cost? Then I need to search for critical activities for lowest direct cost activities to shorten the project duration. So which activities are on the critical path? And from these activities that are on the critical path, there could be more than one activity I could reduce on the critical path. My job would be to go and look at those activities that are on the critical path and ask myself, okay, from all of these activities, which one is going to actually cost me less money if I was to crash it? One activity might cost you 50, one activity might cost you 80, one activity might cost you 200, and they're all on the critical path. So what do? You try to go and actually reduce the actual duration of that activity on the critical path. That is going to be the least possible cost for you at that point of time. You need to go and compare the total cost and for the specific duration of time and compare the benefits for reducing the project time. So for example, you're going to go and say, all right, my original project is going to take 24 days. Now, for 24 days, my direct cost is that much, my indirect cost is that much. Okay, great. That's reduced by 1 day. For 23 days, my direct cost is that much, my indirect cost is that much. For 21 days, the same thing. So you go and actually try to calculate the direct and indirect costs for each specific duration. And from there, you'll be able to go and combine the direct and indirect costs. And when you combine both of them, then you'll be able to know which duration is going to be the cheapest possible for you to be able to go and finish the job. When you go and have the direct and indirect costs, you can draw it. And sometimes I ask you to draw things in the exams. You can draw, for example, you make a row for the cost and the row for the duration. And what you do is you start putting the costs on one side, what they are, and the durations. And you might say, for example, okay, for duration, day number 5. For day number, whatever, just, yeah, in this example, for day number 5. My cost is, whatever, $5. This is my, what we call it, the indirect cost. This is indirect cost. So my indirect cost is $5. My direct cost, this is this one here, is about $42. So if I combine $42 and $5, that's about $47. So you see the total cost is $47. For 6 days, what it is. Again, you have the direct cost and indirect cost and total. For after, direct cost, indirect cost, and total. So you basically go and have all of this information. You add them together and you'll be able to go and create all of this, if you want, the graphical view of all of this job that you actually created. How much is it going to cost you? So you see here, when you combine them together, you know that this one here is the actual lowest possible cost. So this one here, you see, I can finish it in whatever, 15 days or whatever, 13 days, and then it's going to cost me 23. This is the actual cheapest possible cost when I combine both the direct and indirect costs together. Actually, sorry, what I'm talking about, sorry. This is here combining, this is here, this one here, that's the actual cheapest one. The optimal cost here, so this is combining the indirect cost, the direct cost, this is the actual total here, and you combine basically which one is the actual lowest possible potential in terms of the cost. So this one here is going to be costing me the less period of time. But if you go and want to think how, what's the shortest possible, low cost plan duration is really the comparison of all of this information here. So as I said, we need to find the total direct cost for a selected project duration. We need to find the total indirect cost for the selected duration. We need to sum the direct cost and indirect cost together, and then we're going to be able to go and make the comparison and decide which one is going to be the most effective manner and the duration for us to go and finish the project. In this example, this is here the most optimum cost of per time point. So we can actually finish the project in 10 days, and this is the cheapest possible cost it's going to go and cost me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go, and as I said, we need to determine the activities we are going to go and be shortening. Shortening the activities with the smallest increase in cost per unit of time. So if there are more than one activity, I won't go and crash more than one activity. I'll crash only the one that is going to be the cheapest possible cost for me. So how do we actually make that calculation? Well, one, we assume that the cost relationship is linear, which means we try to go and think about the cost reduction at any point of time. So one at a time, every duration at a time. So you're not going to go and kind of try to crash, 10 period at a time. You're going to go and crash 1 unit of time at a time. One single duration at a time. Normal time, assume the low cost, efficient method to complete the activity, and the crash cost mean I'm going to go and work extra to be able to go and finish the actual project much more quicker. Slope represent a constant cost per unit of time. So slope, it's basically how much is it going to cost me more if I was to be able to go and reduce my duration, my actual duration of the project by one single period of time. So that's what we need to calculate. The slope is a lot of time not calculated, and I'll show you how to calculate it. But you need to go and calculate the slope, which is how much is it going to cost me per unit of time to be able to go and really reduce that specific project duration. All acceleration must occur within a normal time and crash time. So the normal time is, for example, a task could be the normal time, it will take 4 days. The crash time, it's going to take 2 days. What does that mean? It means, well, we can actually go and finish that project 2 days earlier. And this way, if we go and do it, if we're going to go and kind of reduce that duration, the acceleration is the difference between my crash time of 4 and my normal time of 4 and my crash time of only 2 specific days. Now, this is an example here. So a project might normally finish 10 days, but I can finish it if I crash it in 5 days. And how long can I go and reduce it? I can only reduce it for anything between the difference between the normal time and the crash time. So this is really the period of time I can actually go and reduce. So with every time I'm reducing the duration by 1 day, my cost is increasing. I reduce the duration, my costs increase. Reduce all the way until I go and reach my crash point, which is going to cost me $800. So to crash it for these 5 periods between day 5, then day 10, and then 5, it's going to cost me an extra $400, which is the difference between $400 and $800. So ladies and gentlemen, this is really the example of how we go and work on the actual direct cost duration. How do we reduce the direct cost? And this is really an exercise you must learn how to do, because it will most likely be in so many exams, midterms, final, quiz, whatever it is. This is a question that you'll a lot of time be asked. So it's very important you know how to do this exercise. Now here, we have the normal thing we usually go and do. We have activity A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They're all here. This is a precedence. A is basically what's going to go and come first. Well, A, there's nothing before it. B, C, and D, there's A before it. E, there's B before it. F, there's C and D before it. And G, there's E and F before it. For activity A, and please, it's very important you understand this now. For activity A, I could finish it normally in 3 days. And if I finish it in 3 days, it's going to cost me $50. But if I want to finish that job quicker, I can also finish it quicker. How do I finish it quicker? Well, I could finish it quicker by going and crashing the actual cost. How do I crash it? Well, instead of finishing the task in 3 days, I'll finish it in 2 days. Okay, great. So if I'm going to finish it in 2 days, what is the impact on me from a cost perspective? Well, if you want to finish it in 2 days instead of 3 days, instead of paying $50 to go and finish it in 3 days, you'll have to pay $70 to be able to go and finish it in 2 days. In other words, it is going to actually cost you $20 more to be able to go and reduce the project duration of activity A from 3 days to 2 days. Now guys, I want you to be making those calculations yourself. So I'm going to kind of mention them, and please, if you can just try to kind of write the calculation in front of you. The way you calculate how many duration you can reduce the cost by, so how many duration, you will make the normal time minus crash time. So to know how many periods of time can I reduce activity A by, you will do normal time, which is 3, minus crash time, which is 2, equal 1, which means you can only reduce activity A by 1 duration only, which is by 1 day only. If you know how long, you can actually, how many periods you can crash activity B? Well, normal time is 6, minus crash time of 4, equal to, which means I can actually reduce project, task B by twice. I can reduce it from 6 days to 5 days, and from 5 days to 4 days. How much is it going to cost me every time I am going to go and try to reduce the duration? Well, how much is it going to cost me? I'll need to go and use this formula at the bottom. What's the formula? What does it say? Well, it says you need to do crash cost minus normal cost divided by normal time minus crash time. Crash cost, normal cost, normal time, crash time. So how do I do it? Well, if we look at activity A, crash cost is 70, so you put 70 here. Minus normal cost is 50, so 70 minus 50. That here, 70 minus 50 gives you 20. Divided by normal time, so the normal time to finish this activity is 3 days. Minus crash time, which is 2 days, so 3 minus 2 equal 1. So we make 70 minus 50 gives you 20. 20 divided by 3 minus 2 equal 20, which means it's going to cost me $20 every time I am going to go and be reducing activity A, and I can only increase it by one period, which is 3 normal time minus crash time, which is 2. 3 minus 2. Now, I need you to do the same thing for the remaining activities in front of you now before you continue. So please work on this activity before we continue. I can see that, answers will be flowing in terms of this. So this is really what the answers are going to be. So you can go and compare it. How did we get the actual crash time for activity B? Well, it's 6 minus 4. How are we going to get it for activity C? It's 10 minus 9, which is 1. 11 minus 7, which is 4. 8 minus 6, which is 2. 5 minus 4, which is 1. 6 minus 6, which is 0. 0 means I cannot crash the activity at all. And obviously, 4 means I can crash activity D by 4 time periods. Now, every time, what is it going to cost me? Well, I need to go and really follow the formula to be able to know how much is it going to cost me. And in this example, for example, you go and see here for, let's say, activity B. Well, what is it? It's 160 minus 60, which is crash cost minus normal cost. 160 minus 60, that's 60. Divided by 8 minus 6, which is normal time minus crash time. So 160 minus 100 divided by 8 minus 6, that gives me 60 divided by 2, that gives me 30. So every time I'm going to crash activity E, it is going to cost me $30. My friends, have a look. Is there any questions you guys are not sure about here, or is that calculation clear? Perfect. So, all right, continuing from here, guys. So now we need to go and really calculate how much a project is going to actually take me. The first thing I will do is I need to go and really calculate the actual overall cost for the project for that specific duration. So what I want you to do in front of you, I want you to write in front of you the following. Have a pen, have a paper, and start writing this in front of you. Can I give you a second to do that? Now, I want you to look at this project, which is really the drawing of that project that they gave you here. They told you what comes first, what comes after. So basically, this is really the drawing of the project. I want you to write in front of you all of these pathways that are available to get the project done. There's A, B, E, G. So write that path in front of you, A, B, E, G. The second pass is A, C, F, G. The third pass is A, D, F, G. So there are 3 pathways. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to go and actually add the duration. A, B, E, G is 23 days. 6 plus 6 plus 8 plus 3, that's 23 days. A, C, F, G, it's 13, 18, 24. A, D, F, G is 3, 11, 5, and 6. This path is 25. This path is 24. And this path is 23. Which one of these 3 guys is my critical path? Which one is my critical path?
ADFG.
ADFG, that's correct, because that's the longest. Now, so the first thing we need to do is we know that the project originally will take 25 days. Now what I want you to do is I want you to calculate all of these costs together. Add all of these combined and tell me what is the total for all of these.
Sir, for the normal cost or the crash cost?
What's that?
What are we calculating?
The normal cost.
450, sir.
450. So for a 25 days period, it's going to cost me $450. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So for 25 days, it's going to cost me $450. Now, the second thing I want you to go and really look at.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, why the 25 days? Why do you use the parts 25 days?
Because it is the critical path is always the one that is actually taking the longest period of time. So the longest period of time is ADFG because it's 25 days. The project cannot finish in 24 days, which is this duration here, because even if you finish it by 24 days, there's still going to be one extra day extra for that specific duration. Does that make sense? So the longest period is always what we consider the critical path. Because if you remember, think about it this way. If you're building a house and you're building the garden, if your house is going to take 4 months and the garden is going to take 1 month, if you finish the garden in 1 month, it doesn't mean that the actual house is finished. So your project is not finished. People can't move in the house because they still need to finish the house. There's still 3 more months left to finish the house. Same here. This pass is 15 days or 25 days. This one is 24 days. Which one is taking longer, the 25 or the 24? Obviously, the 25 days is taking longer. Because the 25 days is taking longer, that is really what we need to go and think about. The 25 days is the longest duration of the project. That is what I call my critical path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So now we know that if we have 25 days, my cost is going to be $450. If you can, write that information in front of you. So write it down so that we can continue. Now let's move on. The next thing I'm going to now do is I need to go and understand which activity I'm going to go and reduce. Can you remind me which one is the critical path we said? Which one we said?
ADFG.
Okay, now we have on ADFG, we have activity A, D, F, and G. So we can crash any of those activities. Now let's start. Which activity we cannot crash?
G.
Absolutely. So we cannot crash G because it has 0 times the crash. So you notice I'm going to put a line now here. That's it. So there's a line and it says we cannot crash activity G. Now what we are left with, A, D, or F. Which one is the cheapest? So is A cheapest to crash? Is D cheapest to crash? Or if F cheapest to crash?
D.
That's incorrect because you need to look. A, it's going to cost you $20 to go and crash. D, going to cost you 25, and F going to cost you 30. So which one is the cheapest?
25.
A. A is 20, D is 25. Which one is cheapest? A is 20, which is cheapest than 25. Does that make sense? Go on.
The crash time. We are not talking about crash time in this one?
No, we are talking about the cost to crash it every time. So now you're thinking between A, D, F, and G, which one am I going to crash? And to know which one you're going to crash, you need to look at which one is going to be the cheapest. And that's why you're looking at what we call the slope. Make sense?
All good, sir. Yes.
Okay, so between A, cost me 20, D, cost me 25, and F, cost me 30. Which one is cheapest? A.
So, sir, does it mean
on activity D, it's 25 for each day that I crash it,
For
even
each
though I
day
can.
of crashing.
Okay.
So the cheapest is A because it's only $20 per day.
Yep. Thank you so much.
No worries. So guys, we know now that we can crash activity A. How many times can we crash activity A? 1, 2,
One.
3, 1.
The
Okay.
one.
So because we can only crash it for 1, instead of 3, we're gonna take that out and we're gonna put 2x. You put an x so that you will know that you cannot crash activity A anymore. Now, if I crash activity A by 1 day, I still have A, B, E, G, A, C, F, G, and A, D, F, G. Could you tell me which one is the longest? So after I crash it, A, B, E, G is 22. A, C, F, G becomes 23. And A, D, F, G becomes 24. So which one is my critical path?
ACFG.
Still A, D, F, G. That's correct. Now, because I am finishing the project 1 day earlier, the duration is going to be 24 days. So if I finish it in 24 days, how much is it going to cost me?
470, sir.
470 because we reduce A 1 time and that cost me an extra $20. So that's correct. It's 24 days and it becomes $470. Now, my next question to you is, now I have to crash either D or F. Which one is cheapest?
D, sir.
D or F?
D.
B, are you saying, or D?
D. D.
You can't crash B because B is not on your critical path. You can
No,
only
sir.
you can only crash an activity that is on the critical path. So if you go and do A, B, E, G, that's 22 days. And if you do A, D, F, G, that's 21, 22, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So that's 24 days. So the 24 days is longer than the 22 days. So you cannot crash this path because that's not your critical path. You need to crash an activity on the critical path to reduce your project duration. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So I only
Hello?
have, yes?
Yeah, please. What happened to A? Why did the number of days change?
Because you are reducing it from 3 days to 2 days.
2 days. Okay.
So every time you crash it, you reduce it by 1 day.
Okay.
Here, we put 2x because you can only crash it for 1 period, which means you will tell yourself, I can't crash it for more times. I can only crash it for 1 time. That's why you put the x. Make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, next activity, I either can crash D or an F. Which one is the cheaper, D or F? Which one?
D?
D, correct. So instead of 11, what do I put here?
7.
No, remember you can only crash it 1 period at a time.
10.
So you put 10. And instead of putting, you notice instead of putting 4 here, because you're crashing it by 1 period, you will put 3, which means it tells you you can now have 3 more periods you can crash it by. And instead of the 11s, you put a 10. And you are crashing it by 1 period. So how much more than 470 is it going to cost you?
495.
Exactly, 470 plus 25 equal 495. Now let's make the same counting. A, B, E, G, A, C, F, G, and A, D, F, G. Let's count them and tell me which one is the critical path now. So which one is a critical path?
ACFG and ADFG are both
Correct.
days
They're
24.
both 23 days now.
Yeah, 24. 23.
So basically, I need to crash one activity from each path or one combined activity for the paths. So I now have 23 days, 495. We already know that. Now guys, let me ask you. I have either C or D or F to crash. We can't crash G, we can't crash A. So which one should I crash? C, D, or F?
F,
Why F?
because it's common in both of them, ACFG and ADFG, it's common.
Because it is common and it will be cheaper, not simply the common. If I'm going to go and do C and D, they're going to be 55. If I do F, it's going to cost me less because it is a combined, it's going to only cost me 30. So if I crash F, cost me 30. If I crash C and D, it will cost me 55. That's why I would choose the F that is on both paths. Now, if I crash F, what happens here? Instead of the 1, what do I have?
We will have 0 crash time and it will increase the cost by 30.
Correct. So that basically becomes, you know, F becomes gone. And then instead of 5, I would put 4x because I can't crash it anymore. And instead the 495 that I have to add what? An extra $30. So that basically gives me the cost of $525, which is $495, which is what I got from here. It's $495. And what I did is I added to it 30. That became $625. That's really this cost that I have here. So $525, this is the cost that I have here, which is $495 plus 30 equal $525 for the new duration. So the new duration is ABEG, ACFG, ADFG. Each of these now is 22 days, is basically 22. Each pass is 22. So what do I crash now? I know I can't crash A. I know I can't crash F. I know I can't crash G. So I know I have to crash D from the first pass. I know I have to crash C from the next path. Why? Well, because A can't be crashed and G can't be crashed and F can't be crashed. So I know I have to crash C because that's the only one available. I know I have to crash C because that's the only one available. And here, I can either crash B or E. B will cost me 40, E will cost me 30. That's why we choose E. So if I was to go and reduce my duration from 22 days to 21 days, I will add to the 525. What will I add? Well, I will add E, that's 30, plus I will add C, that's 30. Sorry, I will add E, which is 30. I will add C, which is 30. And I will add D, which is 25. So that's $85. $85 plus the 525, that gives me $610. So when I go and add all of these C, D, and E, my new cost becomes 610. You notice that E, I can crash it by 2 days, so that drops down to 7. C, I can only crash it by 1, so that drops to 9x. So 7, 9x, and this one drops to 9. 7, 9x, and a 9. So for that duration of 21 days, that's the cost is going to be $610. Now, all of these are 21 days because I can only crash D and I can only crash this pass and mass path. Because I can't crash this pass, there is no point to continue crashing. Because even if you crash this and finish it in 20 days or 19 days, finish this earlier, your project will not take earlier because ACFG is going to actually take 21 days, whatever actually happens. Why? Because this can't be crashed, this can't be crashed, this can't be crashed, and this, we know, can't be crashed. Any questions?
Yeah, what was the reason why you didn't crash B?
Because if you go back, you check B is going to cost you 40, and E is going to cost you 30. Which one is cheaper?
Yeah, E. Okay.
And
Sir, I just
yes?
wanted to ask why we crashed F instead of D in C, D, and F.
In C, D, and F,
Yes, sir.
this one here between this pass and that pass,
Yes, sir.
because if you go and add C and D together, it's 30 plus 25 equals 55. Because you cannot crash only one, because you need to crash one from each pass, one from this path and one from this path. So you have to crash one C and one D.
Okay.
But if you go and look here at F, F is combined. So if I go and actually crash F, it's $30. That $30 is cheaper than C and D, which is 30 and 25, which is 55.
Okay.
Make sense?
Sir, thank you.
Any other questions?
So we always crush the combined tasks over any of the other tasks.
No, you don't. You look always at the cost. In this example, the cost of the combined task was the cheapest. In other examples, the combined task might not be the cheapest.
Okay.
So you look at the cost all the time. Make sense?
Yep.
Any other questions, my friends? All right, so we got all the way from 25 days to 21 days. 25 days to 21 days, you have all of your direct costs. The last one is 21 days is 610 we calculated. We already given you the indirect cost, and you will never have to calculate the indirect cost if I basically give it to you. A lot of time I give you that. So if you go and combine the direct and indirect cost, you get your totals. And then you can see that 22 days is 775. 22 days is really the cheapest duration to be able to go and crash the actual project. Does that make sense? So 22 days will cost you 775. 21 days will cost you more. 23 days will cost you more. 24 days will cost you more, because you're combining the direct and indirect costs together to be able to know which one is going to be the most efficient cost perspective to go and bear in mind. All clear?
So it's not clear yet, but
What's not clear?
yes,
Tell me.
with time.
Sorry, what's not clear?
Initially, I was understanding, but at the time, I couldn't get the activity to crash.
So which activity, are you not sure which activity to crash?
Yeah, after the first crash and the second crash.
The first crash?
I understood the first one, then the second one, but from the third part, it wasn't clear.
Okay, well, we already crashed A, and we already crashed D. You know that, yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you know that. Okay, great. So after that, we need to go and look at the passes. A, B, E, G, A, C, F, G, and A, D, F, G. Which one is the longest? Candle.
A, D, F, G.
A, D, F, G. Okay, so you can basically from A, D, F, G, we've already crashed it. But let's look here. 10 plus 2, 12, plus 5, 17, plus 6, 23. And here, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this one is 23, and this one is 23. So there's two paths. Each of them is 23.
Yeah.
Okay. So they both are your critical path. You have the option to crash C and D together, because you need to crash one from each path to reduce the duration. If you reduce the duration for this one, but not this one, the project will not finish any quicker. So you need to crash one from this path and one from this path, because they both equal amount of time, 23 and 23. So you look here and you say, okay, well, let's look at A, C, F, G. What can I crash? Well, you can crash C or F. Which one is cheapest? Well, C is 30 and F is 30. They're the same amount of time. Great, let's look at the other one. A, D, F, and G. Which one is cheapest? Well, D is 25 and F is 30, so D is cheapest. Okay, great. So maybe you could say, well, maybe let me do D and C. Okay, D and C combined. One from this path, one from this path. D is 25. Sorry, C is 25. No, sorry, C is 30. D is 25. You combine them, that's 55. But there's one activity which is F, which is on both passes together. So if you crash F, it's only going to cost you $30. And that's why instead of crashing C, crashing C and D, which will cost you 55, you will only crash C, which will cost you, sorry, you will only crash F, which will cost you $30. C and D will cost you combined 55, 30 and 25, 55. F will cost you only 30. So you crash 30, which is activity F. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that will take your cost from $495 to what? To $525. Because you're going to add what? You're going to add an extra 30. Does that make sense?
Yes, the 30 from F.
Yeah, so you're going to add from this, you're going to add to this an extra 30. And then F, because you're going to crash it, it's going to become, instead of 1, it's going to become 0 here. And this is going to become 4x because you can only crash it by one period of time.
Yep.
So that's what I basically got you here. 495. And then I went and I crashed F. This is a line. And now the cost becomes 4x. 495 plus 25 give me 525. So you're adding the 495, you're adding the extra 30 to it here.
Yeah.
This, sorry, the 525, you're adding the actual, sorry, I'm just actually confused the costing now. The 495, we added the 25 to it. That gave me,
We added 30.
sorry, you need to do it one at a time, otherwise you'll actually confuse it. So this is the first time it was 25 days, 450. Then we crashed it by one period. So it becomes from 25 days becomes 24 days for 470. So we crash it for A, so that becomes 470. Then we crash activity D, so it becomes 495. So instead of 11, I'll basically crash it by one time. It becomes 495. So that's 495 that I calculated here. Do you understand so far?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that 495 is what I'm showing you here. It's showing you 495 because we crashed activity D. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we need to decide what do we crash after the 495. You look at every path and you add them. This is 23. This is 23. The combined task is F, which will cost you 30. So on top of the 425, what do we add? We'll add an extra 30. So that gives me the cost of 525, which is 495 plus 30, which is this 30 here, give me 525, which is I'm adding to the 495, I'm adding a 30, which is really here, it's showing you we are reducing the duration by 30. So this is the extra cost of $30, which we're adding to the direct cost. So your cost for 23 days was 495. For the 22 days, it becomes 495 plus 30, which is 525.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
So because we reduce it, now we have to decide what do we reduce next. Well, I have to count every pathway. Every one of these now is 22. That's why we need to reduce one activity from each pathway. So we decided that D is the cheapest, C is the cheapest, and E is the cheapest. So to reduce it from 22 days to 21 days, we're going to have to reduce, we're going to have to add to the 525, we're going to have to add the cost of E, which is 30, C, which is 30, and D, which is 25. So if you add 525 and add to it 30 plus 30 plus 25, that gives you $610. And that reduces your duration from 22 days to 21 days. And that drops your E from 8 days to 7 days. Why? Because instead of 2, we then crash it by 1. So we're going to drop that by 1. C, we're going to drop that by 1. So it's going to be, instead of 10, it's going to be 9x, because we can only reduce C by 1 duration. And that's why it drops from 1 to 0. And this becomes 9x. And for D, we're going to drop it by 1. So this becomes a 2. And this becomes a 9, because we're reducing that by 1 duration. So this becomes 7, 9x and 9, 7, 9x and 9. And this is all the extra activities that you're adding to get the cost of $610.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now, I want to remind you that you need to go and actually keep on revising. We can do a lot of exercises today, but it's really about understanding the basics, and you'll have more time to apply today in the tutorial to explain it even further and understand it further. So we have all of these direct and indirect costs. We add direct plus indirect. 450 plus 400 give me 850. We add all of them for each duration. We are giving you the indirect costs. You already have the direct cost. And you know the cheapest cost is 775 for the duration of 22 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now this is really the graphical display of the costing. 21 days, that's an indirect cost, that's a direct cost, that's a total cost. 22 days, that's the indirect cost, that's a direct cost, that's a total cost. We add them all together, and this becomes the optimum cost period of time to go and get the job done. Now, all right, ladies and gentlemen, so there are a number of practical considerations to bear in mind when you're trying to reduce a project duration. One of them is really when you're talking about the graph to go and really monitor the direct and indirect cost. A lot of time this basically gets compared by, having visual representation coming from various tools that basically make things available for you. So that's one advantage that is available. When you think about the crash time, you would usually, calculate all of that information by using the tools. It basically shows you the slack that is available, and based on that, how long you can actually go and reduce the actual activity. You think about linearity assumptions, which mean you're going to go and reduce the duration by one period of time at any point of time. You're going to need to think a lot of time that you don't always have to go and crash the activity that is going to be the cheapest. Sometimes you have to go and actually crash the activity, and that activity is going to be the activity that is going to be the most efficient and most effective one. For example, there might be one that is cheapest, but it's not a hard activity. And there's one that is more expensive, but it is the right activity for you to go and crash, and that's why you should go and consider to crash it. Finally, you need to think about the time reduction decisions and sensitivity. If you're going to go and really reduce the duration of the project, what that basically goes and lead to, every period you go and actually reduce it, it's going to go and mean you're going to be having more than one critical path to really go and manage and bear in mind. And this is exactly what you basically had to go and deal with in this particular example that I showed you, where we started with the critical path being 25 days, and at the end we had the same path having more than one critical path. All three passes became critical paths for you, and you could not any longer reduce only one activity that is on the critical path. You had to reduce all of those various activities. Now, what if cost, not time, is your issue? So if you have a problem with costing, you don't want to actually, you don't care about time, then what you could do, you can actually go and reduce the project scope. We are going to be doing less work for you for that cost. Or we can have an owner doing more work by himself, or we can outsource some of this work Or we could sit down as a group and say, all right, we've been doing this job for a very long time. We have a lot of experience in that field. Let's go and try to consider what can be done to go and reduce the overall duration of all of these various activities. Now, I'm going to talk about being an effective project manager. We talk about leadership, we talk about management, but they are not the same thing. A lot of people think they are the same thing, but in reality, leadership and management are not really the same thing. You lead people, but you actually manage the actual project. Now, if I talk about leadership, leadership is a talent a few people are born with. Management is a skill that anyone can actually get. Now, what do you think? Do you agree with that? Or do you think, nah, it's not right? What do you guys think? What do you think is the difference between them? Do you agree that leadership is a talent that few people are born with, or you don't agree? What do you think?
Disagree.
Disagree? What do you think, buddy? Tell me.
It's a skill that can acquire.
You can acquire leadership. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about an example where you saw someone acquire leadership skills?
Yeah, leadership. Leader are generally the person who has more experience,
Yep.
and they learn step by step.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they have the quality. They know their weakness and they work on it, and slowly they expertise on their field, and they can lead other members.
So how is that different to management? Isn't management actually going and learning and finding the weakness and becoming better at it? What do you think? Any idea? Anybody else could contribute to the discussion?
So on general purpose, a leader can be a manager, but manager could, he cannot be a leader on some levels.
Okay, a leader could be a manager, but a manager can't be a leader.
Yeah.
Okay, does a leader always have, can you tell me about a leader that you really like? He's a leader out there. Tell me about a leader, someone who you believe is a leader.
So related to subject or
Any leader.
any of them?
Someone you believe is a good leader.
Nelson Mandela,
Okay, why is he a good leader?
because he had a vision and he pursued many people to follow him.
Fair enough. You know, there's absolutely, I'm going to give you another example. Is Mother Teresa a leader? Do you
Yes,
need,
sir.
okay, is Princess Diana a leader?
No, sir.
No? Okay, well, what makes him a leader or not make them a leader? So let's talk about Mother Teresa. What makes her a leader? She had no money. She was very poor. What makes her a leader? What is she doing?
So the same thing that she had that quality.
Okay. What I want you to know is a lot of time a manager is really someone who is really employed in a business a lot of time, and he basically managed someone directly. So if I was to tell you, for example, I want you to go and manage my IT company, you can go say, okay, what is required from that management? Well, you need to go and make the scheduling every day. You need to go and fill reports. You need to go and tell people what to do. You need to do this. You need to do this. You might not be great at it at the beginning, but you get trained, and then suddenly you become repeating all of these things. And that basically gets you to become a good manager who can manage all of these tasks that are going to be required. But if you go and think about a leader a lot of time is someone who doesn't actually necessarily is managing you. You might basically be working in a business and there's someone who you believe is a great leader. For example, he might be very compassionate and does a lot of charity. For example, he might be always finding new ways to go and do things in IT, and he tries to tell everybody how to go and do it, and everybody follows. For example, he might be coming and trying to train everybody about how to do things without anybody requiring that. For example, he might go and actually communicate great ideas, and because you believe he's a great leader, you basically start following exactly what that person is actually saying. You basically believe in what that person is saying, and you try to go and really follow their lead and applying what they basically want you to go and apply. So if I go and think about, you know, leadership or management, some people will disagree, but I believe leadership is different than management. Management, I believe people could actually go and get that. Leadership, I believe more that you might be born with some leadership skills. For example, you might be a leader in serving others. That might be a leadership skill born inside of you. And that leadership skills you will apply when you become a manager. But if, in my opinion, you don't have that skills in you, you won't be able to go and acquire that. Like if I go and tell you, I know someone who is a great leader in charity, and I know someone who doesn't like to do any charity whatsoever. I try to push him, go, let's do some charity. He just does not like it. He doesn't like to lead in this specific example. And whatever I do, I can't teach him to do it. Like, it's not like he doesn't know how to do it. It's not in him. It's not what he likes to do. It's not something he's basically feeling he's going to go and really deliver. When I talk about project managers, they are both. You know, we're working about an environment where things are much, much more riskier than what we basically go and do. Expectations are more specific. Resources are more diverse. Many you have to go and manage, but they're not even in your department. Remember how we spoke about the matrix environment and the functional environment? If you need to go and try to get people in a functional department to do what you want them to do, although they don't report to you, you need to have a great leadership, not great management. Because even if you are a great manager, if they're not your team members, you can't actually go and get them to do the job. So you need to find a way to lead by example so that they can actually go and respect you and want to go and work with you through their appreciation of your leadership skills. Deadlines are shorter in project management. No chances to do better next time. You do it wrong, that's it. End of story. You need to lead. You can't just tell people what they need to go and do. Keep on changing, keep on leading what they're basically asking for. We talk about managing versus leading a project. Managing is about coping with complexity. Let me get a plan. Let me monitor results. Let me take corrective action. Let me try to decide how to go and actually create an activity quicker. Let me go and serve as a peacemaker if people are fighting. Let me go and actually make a trade-off between cost, time, specification, scope, and so on. Thank you, Shamal. No problem. Thank you very much. When we talk about leading, it's about coping with changes. There's always going to be change. You need to recognize that we must change. You need to go and not simply wait people to tell you we need to change. You must go and be yourself a change initiator. Provide direction and motivation to people. Innovate and adapt as necessary. Integrate assigned resources from more than one area, and many of people may not be reporting to you. This is really more about being a leader and getting all of these things to go and be working well together. What you need to bear in mind is when you are working in a project, there are so many stakeholders, people in your team, people outside your team. So what you need to know is you need to go and keep on finding an understanding that you can't do all the work by yourself. Okay, there are so many various relationships. So make sure you know all of these people you need to go and work with. Hands-on work, in other words, doing the job yourself, is not the same thing as leading. Keep on putting pressure on people, that it's not really the same as leading. It could actually make you less effective leader. What is important to you might not be important to someone else. So how could you lead all of those people to come and do exactly what you want them to go and do? Different groups have different stakes, different agendas, different priorities, different responsibilities that actually all affect the outcomes of the project. Remember, project management is hard, it's exciting, it's rewarding. We need to go and continue to work hard, perseverance to be able to go and get the job done as expected. So if I think about all of these network of all of these stakeholders, we have customers, functional managers, contractors, admin, government agencies, project managers. We have all of those various people, team managers, groups, all of these people. There are all of these stakeholders. We need to go and work with them. We need to go and deal with them. You need to understand that what they want and what you want is different. What they need and what you need is different. Some would like to know so much about the project. Some would like to just not care about learning any more about your project at all. It's about really understanding all of these various differences. If I go and talk about all of these organizations and all of these people and all of these management and sponsors and so on, you need to try to influence them in a certain manner. Now, I'm going to show you a very quick video. It's a way to go and try to influence people. I'm going to play it for you very quickly. Maybe. So let's play it.
No sound, sir. Sir, there's no sound.
So we
Sir,
can,
please increase the volume.
What's that, sorry?
so we can't hear you.
There's no sound. That's strange. Okay, can you hear now? Can you hear now? Can you hear now? Yes or no?
No, sir, it was all right just a moment ago, and it's again small.
So you can hear it now?
No, it's very small.
Very small. It's very, very strange. I'm gonna try to change something. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try it again. You can hear?
It's too low again.
Sir, share the link so we can.
Well, that's the maximum. I can't actually share it any more than that. I always play it and it always works. So I really don't know why you can't hear it. Let's grab. It's very, very strange. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. Can you hear that?
Some people said I was crazy when I brought Terry on board, but I'm a firm proponent of paradigm breaking, outside-the-box thinking.
Can you hear any of that?
Since Terry's been with us, our productivity
Yes, sir, it's clear now.
Okay, so let me just go from the beginning. Take 3, but that works.
Yes.
That works? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just try. I don't know what's wrong with it. It always works. So I have no idea. All right, so let's go again.
Hey, Paul. Up in this Humpty Bumpy, you killed it, Joe. You make some more. You know that, baby. Sweet for a long day. All day. Good. Some people said I was crazy when I brought Terry on board, but I'm a firm proponent of paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking. And since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%. Over 15 minutes ago, bitch! I am an enforcer, man. Nothing go down in my house. It's one of those, baby. Sure, I check a few fools. I give them the pain. But sometimes it's about intimidation, you know. It's mind games. I'll see you later. What really impressed me is how Terry's become part of the Felcher family. He fits right in here. Surprise! As profits increase, the margin reaches a second break-even point here, after which enterprise falls into loss. Any questions? You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby. Hey, Janice. Motherfucker. That's not to say that Terry's gone soft. He still does what he does best. Of course, the office environment is, in fact, a violent world, and injuries do occur. Playing hurt? Baby, that don't faze me. I don't got time for pain. The only pain I got time for is the pain I put on fools who don't know what time it is. Every bitch think I done lost a step because of what happened. To my knee and such. Well, he in for a surprise. Arun, pay for surprise! To be honest, I wish I had 10 Terry Tates on Team Felcher. I just do my job, man. I do what my God-given abilities allow me to do, and I thank Jesus Christ for it every single day. And do I enjoy what I do? Hell yeah. This ain't your pants, Richard. These pants belong in my house. You can't come in my kitchen and kick my dog and take a box full of ballpoints. This must be crazy.
Guys, anyway, I just brought this video for you. So what can you see with that leadership? Is this the right approach to influence people? What do you think?
It's totally wrong.
What do you think is going to happen when you're going to try to influence people this way? I'm going to tell you, you're going to be kicked out of your job on the first day.
Yeah, it's harassing.
It's harassment, it's bullying, it's whatever you want to go and call it. Guys, there need to be the right way to go and influence people. Just want to introduce that as a kind of a bit of a joke about what's the way for you to be able to go and really try to influence people. But that's definitely not how I would like you to go and really influence people, guys. You need to find many, many different ways and better ways to go and be influencers. How can I influence people? Well, think about it. You know, if you go and help someone, they're going to help you in return. You could say, you know, quid pro quo. I give you something, you give me something. Or I say law of reciprocity. If I help you now, well, I don't need something from you now, but in the future, if I want something, you will help me. I will try to go and influence currencies, you know, and try to create cooperative relationship based on we exchange favors. I exchange something with you, you exchange something with me. How? Task-related currencies. For example, I can lend or give you money. I can increase your budget. I can help you with your project. I can give you task support. I can provide you with technical knowledge. All of this is a task. I'm trying to go and help you with a task, and in the future, you'll help me. Position-related currencies. I can give you a task or an assignment that can help you get a promotion. I can acknowledge your effort in front of everybody. Provide you a chance to be known by everybody high up in the organization. Giving you the opportunity to go and be linked up with other networks to go and grow your career. That's a way for me to influence you. I can inspire you with a great vision. Being involved in something that is very significant to the organization or the unit. Having the chance to do important things really, really well. For example, doing a coronavirus, you know, ethical correctness, doing what is right by a higher standard than efficiency. You know, ethical correctness, for example, going and helping people who are poor. Okay, that's one thing. Is you would like to go and do it, and you're trying to inspire people, and because of that inspiration, you influence them. Relationship-related currencies. Acceptance, providing closeness and friendship. Personal support, giving personal and emotional backing to people. Understanding, listening to others' concern and issues. That's a relationship. Because you have that relationship, they would want to go and support you. Personal related currencies. I give you a good challenge. I'll give you ownership of the work. I give you gratitude. I express my appreciation. All of these are various ways that you can try to use to be able to influence people to go and try to support you. What you need to do, you really need to know all of those people that are part of your project. You know, whose cooperation do you need? Whose agreement or approval do you need? Whose opposition will stop you from getting the job done? What is the difference between the team and those on whom the team will depend? How do stakeholders view your project? Do they support it or not? What is the status of our relationship with stakeholders? What sources of influence does the team have relative to the stakeholders? All of these things, guys, basically will help you to go and really know how to deal with people, what to deal with them, what do they like, what's the relationship with them. You'll be able to form a bond of relationship between you and those people. And a software installation project, for example, there's a project manager, software vendor, shipping company, top management, inventory team, billing and receipts team, inventory and technology director, purchasing team. There's all of these people are your stakeholders. They're not all going to need the same thing. And it is your job to go and know, how am I going to find a way to go and deal with all of those people in a way that will lead them to go and be receiving what they need and be happy to go and interact with my project. A lot of time management is not about really telling people what to do. A lot of time is management what we call by wandering around. Just walk over, have a lot of face-to-face with people, with employees, with colleagues, with vendors. You build all of that relationship. So as a project manager, what should you do? Build relationship with all of these key players. Think about the problems that could occur. Don't wait for them to occur. And once you know that you could thought that something could occur, think about what sort of solution you could actually go and implement if that issue was to occur and become a reality. Provide an encouragement to people. Well done, you're doing a great job. Reinforce the vision and the objectives so that people will start associating with that vision. If there's a conflict, if there's a problem, go there straight away and try to go and reduce the conflict between all the people to ensure the job gets done as required. Now, part of your work in the project is about ensuring that top management and your sponsors will go and support your project. If your top management in the business support your project, they will give you enough budget. If you need any unexpected help, they will help you. Basically, their attempt to go and keep on supporting you is their way to go and tell everybody that that project is actually something that is really, really important for our organization, and therefore we need to go and try to manage it and look after it. How do you motivate the project team? Well, you try to influence top management to be able to go and support the team. If top management support your team, they're not going to come and give you any unreasonable requests. If you go and say, I want more resources, they will give you. If basically they can see and they can care about your project and they see you doing more work, they're going to go and recognize all of your accomplishment and saying, that's a great job. We really appreciate all of this specific work. So your job is to ensure you have a good project sponsor who supports your project. And wherever there's any need and anybody trying to go and attack your project, you have an umbrella, and that umbrella is a project sponsor who is doing everything in his power or her power to go and continue supporting your project to ensure it gets done on time and as required. Now, as a project manager, you need to be a leader by example. You need to be very good at problem solving, and people will learn from you. You need to set the priorities right, especially when we talk about ensuring they are looking after your own project being a #1 priority. Cooperation with various people inside your team and outside your team. How do we cooperate with external people is going to go and drive how people will go and be cooperating with people externally. The urgency that people are actually showing, how urgency they are showing on a task. If they're showing a lot of urgency, then they're going to go, if you're showing a lot of urgency, if you're showing a lot of commitment, you're working extra, you're working hard, they're going to basically learn from you. And because of that, they're going to go and try to go and make sure they're going to go and show the same urgency. How ethical are you in dealing with everybody? How ethical are you into showing the right progress of the project, not lying? Because if you are, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to be ethical like you. What is the acceptable standard of performance? Some performance is positive, some performance is negative. What's an acceptable performance? Well, they're going to look at the standard. They're going to look whether your standard is positive or negative and decide accordingly. But bottom line is, if you're working hard, you're doing the right thing, you're saying we're going to need to work hard, you're monitoring performance, they're going to go and start doing exactly the same thing because you are leading by example, and they're basically learning from you how they should actually be working at any point of time. Now, a lot of times, a project manager will be faced with many ethical dilemmas. Some people might actually be padding costs or time estimates, saying it's going to cost more than what it basically will cost, or going to go and put more time than what it should actually go and take. Exaggerating all of these payoffs of project proposals, saying, you know what, it's going to give me a lot of more, the 500% benefit we're going to get from it. But in reality, that's not the case. Falsely assuring the customer that everything is okay. Being pressured to change the actual status report and put the wrong information. Falsifying all of these cost accounts. Compromising on safety standards to accelerate progress. Approving work that you know is not of good quality. All of these are ethical dilemmas that a project manager must manage. There is a code of conduct. It basically tells you about how you need to go and deal with professional manner. How you're going to go and ensure you're going to maintain your personal integrity. No lying, no misleading information. Do only what is ethical, do only what is right. And that's basically how everybody in project management should be working. No lying, no doing the wrong thing, always focusing on delivering the quality that is expected. Now, as a project manager, you have many, many contradictions in your role. It is really important that you innovate and find new ways and create new projects. But at the same time, you need to ensure that the project and the team is going to remain stable. It's very important to see the big picture while getting your hands dirty. So see the big picture. Now, how am I going to see the big picture, the high level stuff, but at the same time get my hand dirty in doing the job? Encourage individuals to do the job, but then don't forget about the team. Hands on, do the work, and hands off. outside. Let people do the work. Be flexible in case people need help, but be firm if something don't go according to plan. Focus on the team and what you care about the team versus also think about what is important for the organization. Are we meeting exactly the organizational needs? So you can see there are so many contradictions in terms of what we need to go and deliver as project managers that we need to bear in mind. You need to be very good at mastering all of these various contradictions to get the job done. Now, the qualities of a good project manager: be a system thinker, think about the whole picture and how everybody is interconnected with everybody else, not simply your department, not simply your team. Have a personal integrity. You are basically a trustworthy person. Be proactive and always try to find solution to problems that didn't even occur yet. Just think about them. Be highly intelligent, and when somebody comes and blame you for something, don't think they are actually blaming you personally. It's your problem. It's high emotional intelligence. It's about how you show that not simply you understand your emotions and you manage your emotions, but also you understand other people's emotions and you manage them. Have a general business understanding to understand how your project is adding to the business. Be very good at managing time and managing time bandits. In other words, a lot of people who come and try to steal your time by asking for this and that, you need to manage them. Be a good politician, you know, deal with all the stakeholders in a skillful manner, you know, manage conflict, deal with the, you know, people inside and outside the business. Be a politician, deal with people to get what you want, and be an optimist. Because if you are an optimist, and everybody around you is also going to be an optimist that basically believe in your work, like your work, and basically work hard to get the right outcomes. What I recommend you do is build a relationship before you need it. Do not come and wait until you need someone to go and build that relationship. Not simply build that relationship, sustain that relationship. How? Continuous face-to-face contact with all of those people to go and get the job done. Realize that what goes around actually comes around. If you help people, if you're good with people, then they're going to be back and helpful to you too. In other words, if you're not good and helpful to them, then guess what? The same thing is going to happen. They're not going to be helpful to you whenever you need their assistance. That's really the summary of what I wanted to cover today, guys. Do you have any questions? Okay, so the question is the project manager a leader? I believe yes, because a lot of time the project manager doesn't even have the management, like people don't actually report to him directly, and the only way to go and influence those people is through great leadership. I believe a project manager is a leader, and he needs to lead a lot of people who report to him because they're his project team, as well as people outside the business. That's why we said you need to be a great politician. So if you can't go and lead by example and get people to really believe in what you're doing and get people to like you and want to go and follow your lead, a lot of time you won't be able to go and get your project. So I do believe the project manager is actually also a good leader.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
No worries. Any other questions? Alrighty, guys. Well, if anybody basically listening to the recording and have any questions, you can always make contact. I'll be very happy to help you. Guys, it's important to review the lecture slide and notes you've taken. Read chapters 9 and 10. Continue preparing for your midterm exam. It will happen next week. I don't know what time. It could be in a lecture. It could be during the tutorial time. But it will definitely be happening next week. I encourage everybody to come and attend. You know, the exam, because if anybody doesn't attend, then basically that means that they have more time to study, and the exam would probably you know, might be a bit harder. So I encourage everybody to make sure they come to the exam that is scheduled. The difficulty is balanced according to how much time you guys have to prepare. So please make sure you come and you sit the exam next week. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very kindly for your time today. I always appreciate your effort. I want you to always remember that I do care about you. And then you're not simply a number in my classroom, you're an individual that I care about. So please guys, continue working hard. And if there's anything I can help you with, I'll be very, very happy to go and keep on supporting you.